So I wanted to talk about this because in the beginning of our meeting together, there was some talk about, does fat make us fat? And that's a massive misconception, like massive. So to dispel that, it would be good to have a kind of a really great understanding of what the fats are and why they are so important and integral to health, like omega-3 fatty acids and things that you hear about, and essential fatty acids, like things that you hear about but you don't quite understand, and coconut oil, and why is that important, and what are the bad fats, because there definitely are bad fats. So then coming off of this, hopefully if we can get through all of this, which I don't know if we can, but if we can, then next week I want to start talking about cholesterol and statins, because that's obviously pretty important, right? Okay, so every single cell in our body requires fatty acids for the construction and the maintenance of the cell. The different types of fats that are required for our body are saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. It's a beautiful oil. I lived on it during COVID. Fats store and carry nutrients, which is really important. They provide physical insulation for organs. Ooh, I was going to say isolation. Provide physical insulation for organs, they maintain body temperature, and they play a myriad role in metabolism. We use fats for energy, right? Ketogenic diet, everybody's heard about that. And satiety, they help maintain our blood pressure in a really big way. I drank bone broth all day today because obviously I had a massive pot in it, and man, I didn't have one sugar craving. I was good the whole day. It was awesome. All right, so this is a really great overview. I'm going to pick this apart a lot more. It's about 4 minutes. Like I said, I kind of tried to sprinkle this with clips so it's not just me talking the whole time. But this is a pretty great, clear view on fats.
Olive oil is 100% fat. Pancake mix, on the other hand, is only about 11% fat. And yet, olive oil is good for you, and pancake mix is not. Why is that? As it turns out, the amount of fat we eat doesn't impact our weight or our cholesterol or our risk of heart disease nearly as much as what kind of fat we eat. But let's back up. What is fat? If we were to zoom in on a salmon, which is a fatty fish, past the organs, past the tissues, into the cells, we would see that the stuff we call fat is actually made up of molecules called triglycerides, and they are not all alike. Here's one example. Those 3 carbons on the left, that's glycerol. Now you can think of that as the backbone that holds the rest of the molecule together. The 3 long chains on the right are called fatty acids, and it's subtle differences in the structures of these chains that determine whether a fat is, let's say, solid or liquid, whether or not it goes rancid quickly, and, most importantly, how good or how bad it is for you. Let's take a look at some of these differences. One is length. Fatty acids can be short or long. Another, more important difference is the type of bond between the carbon atoms. Some fatty acids have only single bonds. Others have both single and double bonds. Fatty acids with only single bonds are called saturated, and those with one or more double bonds are called unsaturated. Now, most unsaturated fats are good for you, while saturated fats are bad for you in excess. For saturated fats, the story pretty much ends there, but not for unsaturated fats. The double bonds in these molecules have kind of a weird property. They're rigid. So that means that there are 2 ways to arrange every double bond. The first is like this, where both hydrogens are on the same side and both carbons are on the same side. The second way is like this. Now the hydrogens and carbons are on opposite sides of the double bond. Now, even though both of these molecules are made up of exactly the same building blocks, they are 2 completely different substances, and they behave completely differently inside of us. The configuration on the left is called cis, which you've probably never heard of. The one on the right is called trans, and you probably have heard of trans fats before. They don't go rancid, they're more stable during deep frying, and they can change the texture of foods in ways that other fats just can't. They're also terrible for your health, by far worse than saturated fat, even though technically they're a type of unsaturated fat. Now, I know that seems crazy, but your body doesn't care what a molecule looks like on paper. All that matters is the 3D shape, where the molecule fits, where it doesn't, and what pathways it interferes with. So how do you know if a food has trans fat in it? Well, the only sure way to know is if you see the words partially hydrogenated in the ingredients list. Don't let nutrition labels or advertising fool you. The FDA allows manufacturers to claim that their products contain, quote, 0 grams of trans fat, even if they actually have up to half a gram per serving. But there are no hard and fast rules about how small a serving can be, and that means you'll have to rely on seeing those key words, partially hydrogenated, because that's how trans fats are made, by partially hydrogenating unsaturated fats. So let's go back to our olive oil and pancake mix from before. Olive oil is 100% fat. Pancake mix is only 11% fat. But olive oil is mostly unsaturated fat, and it has no trans fat at all. On the other hand, more than half the fat in pancake mix is either saturated or trans fat. And so even though olive oil has 10 times as much fat as pancake mix, it's healthy for you, whereas pancake mix is not. Now, I'm not trying to pick on pancake mix. There are lots of foods with this type of fat profile. The point is this: it's not how much fat you eat, it's what kind of fat. And what makes a particular fat healthy or unhealthy is its shape.
Okay, so just for perspective, the amount of fat that is actually in naturally occurring things is very small, other than like olives and the things that we know that are fat. But a lot of stuff has fat in it. Kale has fat in it, right? So just for your perspective, a corn kernel contains 5% fat, which remains in the fully grown plant. So once that plant that gets like, how many feet tall does corn get? It's insane, right? Like 8 feet tall. Out of that whole plant, you only get a couple grams of oil. So, that's kind of a perspective shift. It was for me anyways. Fats are otherwise known as lipids. They do not dissolve in water. They are solid at room temperature. Oils are fat at room temperature. Fats and oils are both known as triglycerides, like he said in that little cell guy said. And at the bottom of fats are fatty acids, which is what makes up the fats. Like when we were talking about proteins, the building blocks of proteins are amino acids. The building blocks of fats are fatty acids. Saturated fats, we know them, right? Animal fat, bacon grease, lard, things like that. Tropical oils like coconut oil. They talked about the different lengths of fatty acid chains. This is just a really quick review. Short and medium chain saturated fats, butter. Butyrate is a short chain fatty acid that is in butter. It is very, very good for leaky gut, for gut health. Really good for that. Milk fat, coconut oil, palm oil, long chain fatty acids.
So these are good for us?
These are good.
Okay, but now palm oil, I thought palm oil wasn't really.
Okay, no, I lied. They're not.
Oh.
Let me dive into this
Okay.
a little bit more. No, right, you don't want palm oil. No, I'm just showing you what they are. Cacao butter would be a long chain and beef fat. The point with this slide is that they're not all created the same, right? So because palm oil isn't good for you, we know that. Dairy fat, not very good for you. But coconut oil is. Butter in moderation, yes. Cacao butter, I use it. Beef fat, we used it in the bone broth that we made. Saturated fats, all saturated fats produce energy. They are building blocks for hormones. They are the precursor for hormones. So they are necessary for life. Slow absorption of meals allows for stable blood sugars, like I said today with me, and not having any sugar cravings because I was like full all day long, just drinking fluids. It was great. They are also carriers for fat-soluble vitamins A, D, K, and E, which are all super crucial parts of your immune system and hormone health, as I said. Short-chain fatty acids, these are oils. So like, all saturated fats have got different parts in it. It's not just like the whole entire beef cow is like all saturated fat. Each thing has, unsaturated fat. It has different parts in it. They're easy to digest. They're good for people with liver or digestive issues. They feed friendly gut bacteria, and then they also they're also produced by gut bacteria when they eat fiber. So when you feed your gut bacteria fiber, your gut bacteria actually produce short-chain fatty acids for you, which again is necessary for hormones and things like this. They cause mucus production, they're anti-inflammatory, and they protect against colorectal cancer.
Can
Yes.
I? So before I have my colonoscopies, which I have to do every 3 years, I do bone broth for 3 days.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
yeah, which makes a big difference.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just bone broth.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a really good fast.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you won't be hungry.
Not hungry.
This is my 100th slide. Yay! You lasted.
What?
Okay, so some saturated fats, dairy, coconut oil, palm oil, goat's milk. Medium chain fatty acids, you've heard of it, who's heard of MCT oil, right? This is what they're talking about. So coconut oil is obviously probably the most well known. It helps inhibit yeast like candida, which you don't want. We talked in the beginning slide about saturated fats helping with heat regulation in your body.
Right.
Thermogenesis in your body. I actually, my professor for the program that I was taking had Raynaud's, which is poor circulation in your extremities, and your feet get really red and really, really cold. And as she was learning functional nutrition, she got to this part and she was like, oh, maybe I need to include more, fatty acids and, coconut oil is what she chose. And she did, and she's never had any more Raynaud's symptoms
That's
at
awesome.
all.
Because they also get sores.
Oh, you do?
No,
Oh,
people with
right,
Raynaud's
yeah.
get sores they don't know about because they can't feel it. They lose
Yeah.
lose feeling in their extremities.
Is it because of diabetes?
hard.
Like?
No,
No.
no, not necessarily. Nope.
Oh.
That would be neuropathy.
Yep.
Boosts immune system, and saturated fats are necessary for the integration of essential fatty acids. Okay, so what happened? Why are fats deemed bad? It was a political thing, obviously, as most stuff is, and probably not like super intentional, but definitely not, a very conscious thing that was happening. So we wanted to know what causes heart disease, sugar or fat, and there was a big push for sugar, and then the sugar industry kind of put a big squash on that, and this guy arose, Dr. Ansel Keys, and he said that fat is what creates heart disease. He did, well, I'll wait till this slide
Has
talks
anybody ever
about
heard
it.
of Ansel Keys?
That name sounds familiar.
They should.
Might have been in the book.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, he is the guy.
Yeah, he might have been in the
this
book.
This is what happens. So we're gonna watch a clip on it in a second, but I just want to say in 2010, Rutgers University and the Journal of Clinical Nutrition did a massive study, and they found there was no clear evidence basing saturated fat intake on increased coronary artery disease, that's what CAD stands for, and stroke. There was no connection. And the NIH has spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to demonstrate the connection between fat and coronary artery disease, and they cannot find a connection. The data is not consistent across economic situations, cultures, and societies. Like 50% of Greenland's Eskimos eat primarily animal fat, and they have the lowest heart disease in that area. Desert nomads, same thing. And then a random fact from World War II, Switzerland, they increased their animal consumption by 20% during that time, and there were absolutely no adverse effects. So here's a clip on
It's like Craig's
this.
eyebrows.
I know, I'm glad we get funny ones, so it's not just like boring.
If you could pack all of human history into 1 year, we've only
And here's, yep.
farming and eating grain since about yesterday, which is when we became shorter and fatter. We only started consuming processed vegetable oils about 10 minutes ago, which is when heart disease became our #1 killer. So after examining all this human history, the experts came to the obvious conclusion. We need to eat a lot more of these. And so they convinced us that human health depends on foods we didn't eat for more than 99% of our entire existence. How did this happen? In the 1950s, a biochemist named Ansel Keys published a study that compared heart disease and fat consumption in a half-dozen countries. The more fat, the more heart disease. The trend line was unmistakable. Just one little problem. Keyes left out countries where people eat a lot of fat but have very little heart disease, like Holland and Norway. He also left out countries where people don't eat much fat but do have a lot of heart disease, like Chile. In fact, Keyes had reliable data from 22 countries, and the results were all over the place. But you can't make a big splash in the scientific community with a trend line that looks like this. So Keyes did what any dedicated researcher would do. He threw out the data that didn't fit and published his results. His punishment for this bit of scientific chicanery was to get his picture on the cover of Time magazine. Keyes became known as the father of the lipid hypothesis, which says that eating saturated fat raises the cholesterol in your blood, and high cholesterol in your blood clogs your arteries and causes heart disease.
The hypothesis that when you eat high fat, that produces high cholesterol, and the cholesterol produces heart disease, is wrong in every one of those links.
This whole idea that dietary fat causes cholesterol problems is sort of a myth. The whole idea that cholesterol problems lead to heart disease is a myth.
The theory is completely and totally wrong. It was a theory that was made out of whole cloth and then pushed.
The term artery clogging saturated fat, it's as though it's all one word.
It's become part of the zeitgeist. Everybody knows saturated fat is bad for you, but when you get back and you start looking at the medical literature and you root back through to find out where this whole idea came from, it's bogus.
Okay?
So he did the study, and like he said, he handpicked the 7 countries and published it, and we bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. We bought it and we ran with it, and our government, like, still to this day, like,
Well, pushed it big because of the sugar industry,
They lobbied
because
the
they
sugar.
knew that it was, I mean, you know, I would assume that they knew it was them, but they wanted nothing. They like sunk back, and they just kept
Well, and sugar is addictive too, so
pouring
that's,
it into our foods, right? So low fat means high sugar, and that was really great for them. All right, so the big point with saturated fats is that we can't consume, though, more than we're gonna burn. So like that is an action step that you need to be aware of. We consume more, when we consume more than we use, eating a high-fat diet does make platelets more sticky, and it interferes with insulin function and the integration of healthy fats. So you know, the Eskimos and everybody that's eating a really high-fat diet, they're doing a lot manually. You can't just sit around and, you know, eat a really high-fat diet and not expect some sort of consequence.
so
to
how do
come
we
from
know
that.
how much we burn? Like, is it like a calorie counter that we have to, like, do the math and compare?
I am not somebody who likes to count.
But I'm just
calories
saying,
and
how do we
balance them.
know that,
A
like-
balanced diet.
Yeah,
Most of your plate should always be vegetables. A plant-powered,
yeah.
you know, we eat meat in our family, but it's like once a week, maybe. So it's not something that we really need to have. Human breast milk is a really good template for what your diet should be, and it's got 5% protein in it and 5% fat in it. A human baby doesn't grow, like a human grows more in the first 2 years of life than any time during its existence on earth at all, and human breast milk will 100% provide all nourishment for that child. Child doesn't need anything outside until they're over 2. So if human breast milk only has 5% protein and 5% fat, that's like
Yeah,
not
if
a
you think
lot.
about, yeah,
that's for me,
It's
that's
not a
the
lot.
biggest, that for me is like the biggest argument against protein. You know, a lot of people are saying, you know, you need all this protein, you need all this protein. We talked about protein in one of our earlier classes, and there's a lot of evidence that shows too much protein is bad.
Well, yeah,
Especially if
hurts
it's
your
animal,
kidneys.
especially if it's animal-based protein.
but this is just another question, but, how do you you have like recipes for vegetables? You know,
Sure,
to
I
make
can
them
bring some in.
interest,
Yeah,
to
we
make
had,
them interesting?
we'll bring the cookbooks back, but we
Yeah,
have a ton
yeah,
of cookbooks.
yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that you showed the vegetables in the packages of what you can eat calorically
Yeah.
as opposed to
So
other
like I had a big
things.
bag of broccoli in here that had
Okay.
175 calories in it. You want to eat calorically dense, or calorically dilute, sorry.
Okay,
So eat a big bag of broccoli for, 200 calories, let's call it, versus, this much olive oil for 200 calories versus 20 walnuts for 200 calories.
Yeah.
They're all the same, but wow, the nutrition that you get out of that bag of broccoli that your body needs versus, the fat that you're getting from those it's vast. So that would be the only thing that I would say, look at numbers that way if you want to. Another really great analogy I heard about protein was think about in Italy, you have this fountain that's constantly going 24/7. That's protein. You don't have to constantly replace protein the well is draining out every single day.
Okay.
The amount of protein that you need to replace in that well is the amount that evaporates during the day. That would be the only amount of water that you would need to replace. So it's not a massive, massive amount. Your body...
So it basically stays with you, the protein?
Correct.
Okay. Because my husband always says that. I need protein, I need more protein. You need 2 pieces of chicken,
Anybody having a protein deficiency or a problem? The people are protein deficient.
Right.
It doesn't,
No.
you don't hear about it because it doesn't really exist.
So this is something that we're going to talk about, and hopefully it thaws because I forgot to take it out. It's algae spirulina. Have you ever heard of spirulina?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a blue-green algae that has more protein content in it per gram than red beet.
Okay.
And all protein comes from plants, even the animals. They have to eat the plants to get the protein.
Right, which
Yeah,
so much
kind of
sense.
like here, have more broccoli. It's
So if we move and we burn fat like our ancestors, then you don't have anything to worry about. The more hard fats we consume, the more essential fats we need to consume. That's also a really good thing. So if you're eating a lot of saturated fats, please make sure that you're putting a lot of hemp seeds or chia seeds into your smoothies or sprinkle them onto your salads, because that's what you need in order to integrate them. You have a question?
Oh no, I was just thinking.
Oh.
I was thinking hemp seeds and chia seeds.
And flax seeds,
Flax seeds.
and
Yes.
walnuts, and we'll
I
get
was
into
just
that.
making a note in my.
All right, so fat digestion, we talked about this a couple seasons ago. 10% happens in your stomach, and the rest happens in your small intestine. It's a really cool mechanism of action. That I didn't even get into that because that's just intense. But and then talking about what we, bringing up what we talked about last week, that sugar is what turns into fat in your body. Glucose, everything breaks down into glucose, or everything that does break down into sugar breaks down into glucose. It gets stored as glycogen in the liver and the muscles, and when those stores are full, then the body turns glucose into triglycerides, which we now know is fat, and dumps it into the bloodstream, and then it gets stored in your body. Refined and excess carbohydrates break down into fat, and this is one of the precursors for coronary artery disease, is sugar. So your action steps for saturated fat, again, they keep you fuller longer and they help fuel you between meals. Do we remember what the very first principle was that we started talking about? I said I based this program, or the beginning of this program, on 3 principles. The very first one was fat versus fat. And I talked about animal fat and how toxins and everything gets stuck. That's where all of these things go that our body doesn't have an outlet for and we can't process out of. It goes into our fat. So this is why it's crucial. And it's in a super concentrated form. So this is why it's crucial that any animal products that you are eating are clean. And I don't mean like biblical terms clean. I mean like raw organic butter versus conventional butter. Grass-fed and finished meat, pasture-raised eggs, free-range chickens, and wild sustainably caught fish. Butter is about 60% saturated fat. It's high in vitamin D, E, and A. Butyric acid I talked about a little bit. Again, this is just, because people are like, butter. No, it feeds good bacteria, and it makes good bacteria secrete more fatty acids that you need. Ghee is something that I just started using over the past couple of years. I think it's really awesome. It's butter without the milk solids. It's really good for people that have a dairy allergy or they're vegan. Use this instead of, because those vegan butters, and things, they're really heavily processed, and they have they generally have a really long list of ingredients.
Okay,
So you wanna stick, again, no matter what you're buying, if it's plant-based or not, you want it to be 5 ingredients or less. That's your omega, like that's your alpha and omega, that's really where you wanna shoot for. So that's why whole foods, foods in their whole form, when you read the ingredients list, you know what each of those look like. That's where you want to shoot for. Ghee is awesome. It doesn't need to be refrigerated. It doesn't go bad. In Ayurvedic medicine, it's like a god. And it can cook really high heat point. Like it has a really high heat point.
And I cook rice with that?
How?
Absolutely.
Yeah, what do you mean? Like
Yes.
sauteing rice before you boil it or something?
Yeah, because usually the Latin people have to have rice. It's like the Italian people have to have something.
But yes, you can, yes, you can.
Yeah, it's,
Yes.
yeah. You would use it as an oil.
Okay.
Lard is an animal fat. It's great for baking. It's high in omega-3 and omega-6 if it's grass-fed. And then I'll always say coconut oil. Put some coconut oil and some ghee on your countertop and leave them there. Use your coconut oil or an avocado oil. Those are my 3. And olive oil.
Big Y actually has a ghee with coconut oil, just so you
Yes.
know. It's a solid, not a liquid.
Avocado oil, ghee, coconut oil, olive oil. You can put ghee on toast.
It's so good.
Yeah,
So good.
and I have it in my cabinet.
What was
so-
I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna just.
It's creamy. My dad
Yeah.
actually came home recently and she's like, can I
It's
have
good.
olive oil and some salt on my toast? I'm
Yeah.
like, oh. Yes,
Is
you
that
may.
in the refrigerated section or?
No, it's on the shelf.
Yep.
It's shelf stable in and of itself.
Go,
You're
go,
really
if you
good
go
Stop
in.
and Shop.
The organic
Or
aisle
Big
is
Y,
on
it's in the
shelf.
organic section, yes.
About knee
Yes.
level.
It's not a shop, not big
But
one.
Big Y
Either
have it
one,
too.
either
Yeah,
one,
absolutely.
yep.
Probably in the organic section.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I even think they have ghee in the regular, where all the
Probably.
oils are, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, this is a really cool quote. The supposed connection between saturated fat and heart disease is the public health diversion of the century and is the greatest scam in the history of medicine. That's like a huge statement. Saturated fats are produced by all mammals in their mammary glands to feed offspring and ensure growth and survival. So that tells you right there that that's, like we need them. Every naturally occurring fat in its form is mixed between saturated and unsaturated. That's what I was trying to get at before. So it's not like all beef is saturated. There are components of that crazy molecule that had all the C's and H's all over it before that we showed. Like one of those can be unsaturated, one of those can be saturated, one of them can be, like it's just, people that really get into this, like their brains are really cool. Okay. Oh, dietary fat. Oh, right. Dietary fat is not cut and dry. It's very complicated. Who's heard of MUFAs? Dr. Oz talked about these for a while. I was like, what? Monounsaturated fats. Avocado oil, olive oil, sesame seed, Brazil nuts, hazelnuts, pecans, pumpkin seeds. Has everybody put pumpkin seeds on their dining room table yet? Because I swear, I have pistachios out right now because they're like so addicting. But I'm switching them out for pumpkin seeds because pumpkin seeds show up in everything that we talk about.
I got sprouted pumpkin seeds from Thrive.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
They're okay, they're not bad.
But even raw ones are good. Right?
Whole Foods has an umami seasoning now that I put on everything. Everybody needs to get it. Umami is
What is
your
it?
Umami.
Umami, U-M-A-I, they're U-M-N, I'm missing a letter, it's 5 letters. U-M-N-A-I, a variety of that, a variation of what I just
Is it
said.
like a mushroomy flavor?
You know how to spell it?
I think there was one from,
UMANI, I believe.
What's the
There
other
could
one?
be another I in there, but
It
you'll
is-
get the gist
it
of that.
is technically,
What is
like
it?
a
What is
it? It's from
mushroom
a
would be an
mushroom.
umami flavor. There's 5 different
So where
taste
is
It's a
buds
mushroom
that you have.
I got it from Trader
Mushroom
Joe's.
seasoning?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Version of it.
It's a
U-M-A-M-I.
There you go.
UMAMI.
UMAMI. Umami.
okay, so these are liquid at room temperature, solid in the fridge. These keep your arteries supple and your skin healthy.
You know what we could do? We could do Nutrition Jeopardy.
Oh,
Oh, that's so good, Teresa.
Nutrition Jeopardy.
I like that idea. I had time for suggestions at the end if we can.
Sorry, it was
It's
just
okay.
a thought.
No, that was a good thought. Important heart protectors.
That's the board right there.
Yeah, right?
I'll take saturated fats for 100.
No, I wouldn't. So these are the ones that are seen in the Mediterranean diet, olive oil, and this is why everybody's like, no, the Mediterranean diet. So powerful antioxidants in olive oil. It's best in its raw state, and it has the highest amount of minerals and vitamins in its first press. We'll talk about pressing shortly. Canola oil, I did not know this. They call it canola oil because it's actually made from rapeseed oil. It's made from rape seeds, but who would want to call it rapeseed oil? So they changed the name. It's Canada because they came up with this process in Canada, and ola, an oil. So they put the two together, and that's where they came up with canola oil. It has no nutritional value, and this uracil acid actually leads to heart lesions, with high amounts of use. Free radicals are produced, when the omega-3s are heated. So, yes, it has a high cooking point, but the second it does get heated, now you have free radicals, which causes oxidative stress in your body and leads to things like cancer and so forth. So it's not good for you. Action steps here would be eat raw, unfiltered, extra virgin olive oil, and strap up your parents, and avocado oil. And again, coconut oil and ghee. Those are my favorites. All right, so how's this look?
That's a scary thing.
That's the oil pulling.
Yeah. I have the next class, I'll bring some.
These are what
Next,
rapeseeds
the
look
seeds
like.
enter a roller mill. They pass between two
This
steel
is canola
rollers,
oil.
which crush them into thin flakes.
Doesn't it look so good?
No.
A conveyor then feeds the flakes into a screw press. It has a large revolving screw-shaped shaft enclosed within a slotted cake.
How is that even legal that there's food made? I love that she...
As the shaft turns, its threads squeeze the flakes with high pressure, forcing out the oil, which then drains out through the slots. 42% of canola seed is oil. This screw press extracts nearly 3/4
Yes, it is.
The remainder is still trapped in the pressed flakes, now referred to as canola cake.
Like, look at the
The
machine.
cake exits the other end of the press and moves on to a second extraction.
Ew.
This one, a 70-minute wash with a solvent. This chemical extraction process removes all but a trace of oil. The factory then grinds the cake into protein-rich meal, which it sells as animal feed. The extracted oil, stored in large tanks, now enters the refining phase. First, they wash the oil for 20 minutes with sodium hydroxide. During this wash cycle, they spin the oil at high speed so that the centrifugal force separates the natural impurities, which the factory later sells to soap manufacturers. After this cleaning process, the canola oil is visibly clearer. However, it still contains natural waxes, which make it look cloudy. So the next step is to cool the oil to 5 degrees
This is promoting
Celsius.
it too.
This thickens those waxes so they can be filtered out. The waxes
there you
don't
go.
go to waste
Oil
either.
pulling.
The factory uses them to produce vegetable shortening.
There you go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
In the factory's lab, technicians recreate production on a small scale to ensure performance and quality. Meanwhile, back in the factory, after washing and filtering the oil, they bleach it to lighten the color.
Oh, bleach
Then
it
use
too.
a steam
What
injection
else could
heating
they do?
process to remove the canola odor. The oil is now fully refined and ready for bottling.
There we go. And this was promoting it. So here's coconut oil, and this is on a small scale. I watched the bigger scale coconut oil manufacturers, and it is identical to this process. So I didn't want to play it because it's like 8 minutes long. But this is awesome. So you can breathe because it looks nothing like that. This is a really good illustration of cold pressing.
I learned how to do that in Hawaii.
Stop it, really?
All the way up?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, coconut.
Hey, you could make your own coconut oil then.
It was awesome.
Oil coconut.
On the big scale, it's like boats and boats and boats of coming down the river, whatever river it was in Indonesia, full of coconuts. It was really awesome. Reading it.
And this water,
Yeah, mixing it with the water. And then they press it. Coconut milk or water is coming out on the other side. After pressing, the oil is left to ferment for 16 hours. It's tapped from the drums. And then it's put into a centrifuge for better separation. And
also
this
the
thing,
clear stuff is coconut.
the clear stuff is coconut oil, yeah, first press. I could watch that all day. After centrifuging, the oil is filtered. And then that's pretty much it. And again, and they filtered a whole bunch.
Wow.
And that's
So the coconut water, they just add water to it?
correct. Okay.
back.
Polyunsaturated fats. These are, you know, your, this is the category in which your essential fats are under. So these are liquid at room temperature and in the fridge. If anybody has bought MCT oil, it's liquid in the fridge. It becomes unstable and rancid when heated. These oils must be consumed raw. Put them on salad dressings, put them in smoothies, put them, where else do I have? I don't know, we'll talk about it. They are extremely, these include the extremely important essential fatty acids. The body, meaning the body does not make them. It is essential that you acquire them from outside of your body. They are required for normal cell, tissue, and gland function. They must be provided outside the body through food or supplements, and they can only come from fats. We're talking about your omega system now. You have, so remember, go back to that chemistry picture of the crazy C's and O's or C's and H's everywhere. What the difference is between omega-3 and omega-6 is where the double bond occurs in this polyunsaturated thing. It either occurs on the 3rd carbon chain or the 6th carbon chain, and that's the differentiation. Things that are high in your essential fatty acids are flax, hemp, chia, pumpkin, walnut, fatty fish such as salmon and sardines. Again, when I talk about these, I mean only wild and sustainably caught. Certain meats and algae. Heating fats. Healing fats. Eating these fats allows us to eat saturated fats. Like I said before, saturated fats equals, the metabolism of, or eating essential fats allows for the metabolism of saturated fats. They help keep our body in balance. And again, they can't stand heat. They produce free radicals and oxidative stress.
So you're saying like that, we should be taking that, the brain on?
Absolutely.
And
you
that's,
can buy it in Whole Foods.
Okay.
At the very last, if you are walking towards like where the bread and the hot sections are that they have, it's the very last end cap on the other side of the registers,
Okay.
where the frozen mangoes and all the frozen bagged fruits are. It's on the top shelf. They have a couple different varieties of them. This is really the best one. It's about $32.
And is that like Spirella or no? Or is
It's,
that,
yes,
or is it a
it's in the
common-
same category.
Okay.
This, if you
What is that?
had to,
I know, I'm here. Something's going
oh,
on.
it's,
Oh.
if you were stranded on a desert island, you could live on this and filtered water.
Oh.
This has
Okay.
enough in it to support life itself, plus water.
It's called what, brain on?
Algae.
Algae, it's by a company called E3 Live, anything that they have, yeah, but it's
What's
a-
the name
it's
of the
a
company?
E3 Live,
E3
like the
Live.
letter E, the number 3 Live. This comes from one of the last alkalized lakes in the United States, like freshwater alkalized lakes. It's by the Ring of Fire. It has a lot of volcanic debris in it, so it creates this crazy blue-green algae, and it's really super potent. I think I have a slide. Here's another really cool quote. It's more important for health to optimize the consumption of good fat than to avoid the bad fat. The fats that heal and protect us from the fats that kill us. If you remove all bad fat from your diet and didn't bring in the good ones, you would still die of a degenerative disease. You cannot live without good essential fats. Essential fats are super important in the function of your brain. They are key for function of your adrenals, your sex glands, and your hormone production, as I said. They are critical for the function of all cells in your body, keeping cell membranes supple and stretchy. Cell membranes impact the rate at which you age, the repair of your tissue damage, and how you handle inflammation and metabolize food. Yes.
Are avocados a good fat?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
What about pork fat?
They are in trouble.
Because like I have pork fat.
Again, how is the animal raised?
The animal lived on Chobani yogurt and organic dog food.
Okay, I thought this was good for you.
Yes.
No? Mm.
Hi guys, in this video we're going to talk about essential fatty acids, okay? Essential meaning must be consumed from the diet, your body doesn't make it. There's basically two different types. You've got omega-3 and omega-6, okay? And you should have a 1-to-1 ratio. The names are very similar, but they're a little confusing. This one is called alpha-linolenic. This is linoleic, okay? Very similar, but different. I recommend not necessarily worrying about getting your ratios. You should have a 1-to-1 ratio because it would be almost impossible to figure out from your foods to balance this and balance that. I would just consume some of these foods: flaxseed, chia seed, hemp seed, and walnuts, okay? That will give you a nice balance of these fatty acids. Now, of course, some of these fatty acids are also in the vegetable oils and vegetables themselves. I don't recommend the oils that some of these are in, like soy or corn oil. But if you're eating a healthy diet, you should get the right ratios. But the point is this: that if you're deficient in this specific fatty acid, it'll stunt your growth a little bit. It'll also, you'll feel weaker. You won't have the stamina. Your vision can go bad. Learning difficulties. So how important is this to give to a child? Mood changes. And omega-6 fatty acids has a function of transferring oxygen to the lungs. So it exchanges, it helps that oxygen exchange. It's like an oxygen magnet. It pulls the oxygen in and it allows it to go into the blood, the hemoglobin, and also directly to the cells. So we really need this fatty acid membrane in our cells to allow the oxygen to transport through it. But essential fatty acids really make up the structure of your cell membranes, and also a lot of the structures inside the cell. They're called organelles, the little machinery that run the cell. Now, if you're deficient in this fatty acid, you have a lot of skin issues. Eczema, hair loss, dehydration, slow healing, sterility in a male body, miscarriage in a female, arthritis, heart problems. It also will help you recover. So let's say, for example, you do this intense workout and you're sore and you have this lactic acid buildup. Boom, take some flaxseed oil or some chia seed oil and you will recover faster. Why? Because the oxygen carrying capacity, and also it gets rid of lactic acid. And it's an anti-inflammatory too. Now together, essential fatty acids, looking at the whole thing, there's some classical symptoms. One is dry, flaky, peeling, cracking skin, okay? You probably know people like that, and you see them, and I usually see like older men with these kind of crusty skin you see in their ears. That's, they need this right here. Bumps in the back of the arms, right through here. That's that's fatty acid deficiencies. So go ahead and apply this. If you have these symptoms, start consuming some of these foods right here and put your comments below. Thanks for watching.
Okay,
That's good.
lack of omega-3s.
I just wanna live in an island.
Yeah, right. Weakness, decreased motor coordination, impairment, learning disabilities, behavioral changes, mental deterioration, immune dysfunction, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, tissue inflammation. Depression is not a Prozac deficiency, it's an omega-3 deficiency. And not like in every case, but that's like a massive component. Give people with mental instabilities the right nutrition, including fats, because our brain is fat and that's what it needs. You'll have a really big turnaround. Most states of inflammation can be connected to a deficiency in omega-3 fatty acids. That's huge. Inflammation is how our body responds to injuries. Lack of omega-6s, eczema, hair loss, kidney degradation, degeneration, there we go. Failure of wounds to heal arthritis, circulatory issues.
Okay, question on this. Sunflower and safflower, that's good for you?
They're high in omega-6s.
But they're good for you?
I would stay away from right now. I'll explain why right now. So, cod liver oil, walnut oil, good. Omega-3s are pro-anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
Omega-6s are inflammatory. You need these things in a ratio. We need to have things break down in our body in order to have things build back up. So we can't live, we don't live in a vacuum, we're not, like cells need to die.
Yeah.
There needs to be some sort of stress in our body so that things can regrow and put back together. So we need inflammation in order to be healthy on a balanced level.
Okay.
So omega-6s are going to do that in the way that they're supposed to. Before I get to that slide, the ratio for omega-3s and omega-6s, it's omega-6 first, and you know, people say you have to have a ratio. It's not like you can't cut out all omega-6s, there's a ratio. So it's 1-to-1, omega-6s first, omega-3s. 1 to 2.5. You can have up to 2.5 in your ratio for omega-3s. The cultural shifts in this ratio, look at these ratios. The Inuit is 1 to 2.5, so they're really great on. Japanese is 3-to-1, so they're higher in omega-6s. And the Japanese, you know, they have Okinawa, they have always had the longest living humans on the face of this earth. They have totally switched over to a standard American diet, and they are rapidly dying off. In Europe, it's 6-to-1. And in anyone who eats the standard American diet, which is what SAD stands for, you're eating a 12-to-1 to 40-to-1 ratio omega-6s. Back to the experiment that I was talking about.
We were shocked. We were like, wow, 40-to-1. 40-to-1.
So how do you ratio it then? Like, you know, do you take
Pay
something?
attention to what you're eating. No,
Oh, okay.
So let's jump down to the bottom. So ratios are important due to the inflammation factor of omega-6s. Polyunsaturated fats convert into eicosanoids, which are what signal the body and the immune system to inflammation. So omega-6s, like I said, are pro-inflammatory. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. When omega-6s are high, we can't control the inflammatory response, nor can we turn it off. Omega-6s were deemed, they were found first. So they were deemed essential first, so everything kind of jumped up then, and then omega-3s were found about 20 years later. So where did the omega-3s go in our diet? Our animals are eating corn, they're not eating grass. So our animals are higher in omega-6s than they are in omega-3s. Goats, cows, chicken, fish, grains, meats, some meats, dairy, eggs, cheese are high in omega-6s, not omega-3s as they were in the past. Grains are high in omega-6s and greens are high in omega-3s. So there you go. If that's what the cows are eating, if that's what the chickens are eating, then that's gonna be your meat. Leafy green fat content is not as high in the oils that fish and nuts are, but it's high enough to matter. Eggs that were tested in Greece from chickens that eat bugs and rummage through greens, like purslane, which is really high. Do you know what purslane is?
Yeah, I go pick it and I stick it
It's
in my
that
salad.
really cool weed that like spiders across things. Have you guys seen it? It grows in your yard, so pick it and put it in your salad.
If you get the app, like picture this.
Oh yeah.
You could identify
It
it
normally
sometimes.
grows on like rocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, look it up. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
What is it called again?
Purslane.
Yeah.
It's high in omega-3s, so their eggs were 10 times higher in omega-3s than they are in the United States. So in the 1920s, another reason why we lost omega-3s in our diet was in the 1920s, we had a smaller industry making oil, so they were small batches, cold press batches, and then in the 1920s, Industrial Revolution, another one, everything boomed into production. Oil crops were planted and pesticides came into play, so oil crops being soy, canola, corn, things that they use to make oil from, subsidized plants. Technology for seed preparation, oil extraction, refinement, bleaching, deodorizing were developed to make oil more available and to support the stable shelf life. So basically everything in the center of the grocery store has got bad fats in it so that it can stay on the shelf for weeks.
Yeah.
Everything on the perimeter has to be changed out frequently, not the stuff in the center. It can stay there for weeks. Vitamins and minerals were removed to keep the oils from spoiling. The oils became tasteless. Vegetable oil and margarine were created. So soy, corn, rapeseed is where coronary artery disease comes from, and they are chosen for their lower glycemic or lower omega-3 content to make them easier to cook with. Action step would be to eliminate seed oils. That means that they are the oils made from seeds and not the fruit of the plant. So soybean, corn, canola, safflower, sunflower, again.
Because sunflower, like, was it sun butter?
Sun
Isn't
butter,
that like
yes, like we use
sunflower
sun butter
butter?
in our house, but because it's not a full oil. Yes, it has
Okay.
natural oils in it, but like I eat sunflower sprouts. They have the omega-3s and
Yeah.
omega-6s in them. So it probably has a lot to do with the heating process too.
Okay, so some sun butters are good and some are not, then you're saying, right?
Let's look at that. I'll look at that and I'll get
Yeah.
back to you next week on that.
Yeah, because I know my daughter said, well, oh no, they're not good anymore, you're not supposed to eat, you know.
Okay,
and she's-
I'm curious now.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. So let's beef up your omega-3s. Eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, increase your leafy greens, salads, smoothies, and low glycemic, anti-inflammatory plant-powered plates, please. Consume oils that are healthy, with a healthy balance of omega-3s and omega-6s. Stay away from refined oils and seed oils. Consume hemp and flax. I had a bag of hemp because I wanted to show you that the oil content in it, or the fat content in it was like 12 grams or something like that for 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds. They're really awesome little godsends. And what you're supposed to have every day is like 11 to 22 grams. So that's it, right there. One smoothie and you got
11 to 22
your fats
grams?
for the day. That's perfect.
of what is that called?
Hemp seeds.
But 11 to 22 grams of what are we supposed to?
Fat.
Fat,
Your polyunsaturated good fat.
okay.
Ways to eat raw, pesto is the other way that you can get raw oils in because it's, otherwise you're sitting there eating spoonfuls and that would just be gross. Consume a wide variety of wild-caught fish, salmon, sardines. Seafoodwatch.org is a really great place. It's a really great website that can give you specific information on the fish that's in your area.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a watchdog. Pasture eggs, we went through this. Oh, and marine phytoplankton. I'm hoping that this melts a little bit so that you guys can try some if you would like. Here's a little thing on E3 Live.
It's a blue-green algae, or an AFA algae, that comes from this lake here, called Upper Klamath Lake in Oregon. Algae is only as good as the environment in which it's grown, and this lake is one of the last remaining alkaline lakes left in the world. There is volcanic deposits at the bottom, which gives it lots and lots of minerals. So this product is, you can think of it like a multivitamin, multi-mineral. It has a full B complex, it has a full amino acid profile. It's every single nutrient that a human body needs, and everything that a healthy brain needs as well.
So you buy it, 2 ways that you can do this. You take it out of the freezer, you put it in cold water, like just in the bottle, you put it in cold water for 20 minutes, and whatever pours out, that's what you drink. Put it back in the freezer, because it needs to stay frozen. The first couple times that I bought those cool ice cube trays that have the rubber bottoms that you don't have to like crack the whole ice cube tray, and they're small, so you fill up an ice cube tray and just pop them out. I put them in a cup, and then we'd have them, 10 minutes later when they thawed. It does not taste bad whatsoever. I fed this to all of my children last night, and not one of them gave me boo-hoo about it. I didn't tell them it was algae until after the fact.
Yeah.
But it's fine. You just need to make sure that you're getting the apple lemon flavor.
So that's...
Otherwise, you'll be tasting algae. Bad fats, hydrogenated oils, and trans fats. Chemical process needs to take polyunsaturated fats, change them from a liquid into a solid. These are the products of subsidized crops so that they can use all of the parts of the crops. Like when she was talking about the rapeseed, they're like, we throw this at the cows and we throw this at the soap and we throw, they use every part of it. So this is what they use to make trans fats with: corn, soy, cottonseed, the GMO crops. So on top of it, you're getting genetically modified stuff, right? So hydrogenated oils allow for a long, long shelf life. This is what happens. They use polyunsaturated fats for it. Basically, the double bonds that we saw in the really crazy picture is altered, but it takes 6 to 8 hours of being under pressure with metals like nickel, palladium, aluminum, platinum, and cobalt, which, by the way, stay in the product until you consume them. And then where do they go? Into your tissues and into your fat, because your body can't get rid of them. So enjoy the increased toxic load. It creates a hard, stable, dead fat with no health benefits. Trans fats inhibit your body's ability to use essential fats. They are artificially manufactured. They get stuck in our body and we can't move them out. They increase your toxic load, like I said. They make your blood hard and sticky. They increase heart disease. They increase triglyceride levels and thicken arteries. Trans fats and sugars are the main reason for increased triglycerides, which means that they are the leading cause of coronary artery disease. Inflammation in our system is our body's response to injury. This is why this goes up. When people have metabolic syndrome, it's inflammation everywhere. Trans fats leads to diabetes mellitus type 2, cancer, mental health issues, obesity, interfere with enzyme structure. Enzymes are like the electricity that your body needs in order to break everything down. Enzymes are, we'll talk about those when we talk about sprouts and juicing. They interfere in cell membrane transport, which is massive because your cell membranes are a beautiful phospholipid bilayer, if you remember your cool chemistry from high school, and it needs to be fluid and workable, and these make them hard and impassable. It disrupts hormone synthesis and metabolism and immunity and tissue repair and neuron communication. It's just insane. So our beautiful FDA, like they said in the first little YouTube video, allows companies to say no trans fat on products, even though they actually allow up to 500 milligrams per serving to be trans fats. So your Chips Ahoy, your Ruffles, and your Ritz crackers and your Cheetos and your Milano cookies that say trans fat, 0 grams. This is why the food ingredients are the most important part of your food label, because it says in here, hold on, let me find it, enriched white flour, milk chocolate, palm and or soybean and hydrogenated soybean oil. There you go. They get you.
So that's where this is coming, the trans fat is coming from those oils.
Whole food, plant powered is the way to be. Read ingredients. So yeah, know your culprits. Margarine, vegetable shortening, packaged snacks, baked goods, baked foods, ready to use dough, fried foods, coffee creamer, both dairy and non. If you're going to use non-dairy coffee creamer, get a can of coconut milk and use that. Because it's got your MCT oils right in it. It's like that bulletproof coffee that everybody was talking about, adding butter to it or whatever. This is the better way to do it. Because you don't know where the butter, unless you're using like a really high grade butter,
Or ghee.
Or ghee, yeah, okay, use, just a can of full-fat coconut milk, shake it up, and use that, and you got a creamer, and you got your fat right in it. It's amazing, it's what I use with my turmeric lattes. Yes, I did, okay. So upcoming classes, so next time we're gonna get through cholesterol and statins, which is a really, really cool, interesting thing. And then we wanna talk about dehydrating and sprouting and juicing and smoothies. And then Liza, and maybe you wanna get involved
Sure, I would
in
love
the
to.
essentials of essential oils. And then I am down for suggestions on wherever you guys want to take this. If you want to do like a really cool, quick, comprehensive review, now that you have all this information, we can kind of go back from the beginning and apply it. Like, so this is what your meals should look like, you know, on a daily basis. Like, this is what you should be eating. This is what your pantry should look like.
I showed you pictures.
I know, you do amazing. And her husband, Greg, liked the rice pasta.
He did. He liked the rice pasta. By the way, I will, if you want to like make it fun and have a quiz, I'll give away an aroma touch therapy.
Okay, okay,
Okay?
yeah. Let's get a lot
I
of
like
people
the
here.
Jeopardy thing.
The Jeopardy thing was
Yeah.
cool.
Well, we'll take a couple
And
weeks
if
for-
somebody wins that, then
Okay, there we go. All right, then you will be the prize giver. That's beautiful. We can also do some potlucks.
I wouldn't do to make you feel my love.